is often pictured as a title. It is pictured as an office, or it is pictured as a corner table in a play. The truth is simpler and far more demanding. Leadership is first and always, it is an inner condition. Before a leader stands before his team, addresses a parent-teacher meeting, or guides his villagers, their initiatives, that leader, he has to stand firmly within himself. The visible authority, the meetings, the decisions, the directives, these are all, they will follow only the invisible authority, the mindset. If it is settled in every workplace, every family, every neighborhood, we have seen people who wear positions but not presence. They hold appointments but not authority. They speak instructions but do not invite commitment. Why does this gap exist? Because people follow confidence more than commands. People follow trust more than titles. People follow clarity more than charisma. Your team does not mimic your to-do list. It mirrors your inner stance. If your thinking is reactive, if your thinking is fearful, if your thinking is confused, your team will inherit that atmosphere. If your thinking is clear, calm, and purposeful, the same clarity spreads through the group like through the glass. There is a simple saying: when the head of the family he stands straight, the shadow will also stand straight. The leader is the head. The culture, the tempo, the expectations of everyone around him, they take shape from that posture. So, leadership is not about being the loudest. It is not about being the loudest in the room. It is about being the still point around which others can turn without losing balance. That is leadership. The most dangerous opposition or enemy, adversary a leader faces, not a competitor in the market. Not a competitor in the market, or not the latest policy from above, or not the pressure of deadlines. The real adversary or the real enemy is the mind. The mind when it is unsettled, when it is anxious, when it is exhausted, when it is scrambling for control. Under stress, the mind plays tricks. The mind plays tricks. It magnifies failure. It rehearses shame. It invents enemies. Decisions made from that place, they are small decisions. Conversations from that place fracture trust. Leadership from that place, it burns people out rather than builds them up. So, the first transformation every aspiring leader they must follow is inward. Learning to lead one's own inner life. This means becoming aware of the habitual patterns that pull you off center, the quick temper. The quick temper. That will pull you off center. The quick temper, the desire to control, the need for approval. It means deliberately practicing presence, noticing your breath, choosing your first response, and deciding to act from principle rather than from panic. It means converting reactive energy into considered action. Practically leading the self, it begins with 3 commitments. Leading the self, it begins with 3 commitments. First, the commitment to clarity. Commitment to clarity. Know the purpose you are serving and be able to explain it simply. In classrooms, corporate boarding rooms, or local committees, people follow a clear purpose before they follow a person. So, second, the commitment to calm. Second commitment is the commitment to calm. Cultivate the habit of pausing under pressure. A leader who breaks before speaking, he wins twice. They keep their dignity and they keep their people. Third, the commitment to learning. Accept that leadership is a practice. Leadership is not a badge. Everyday situations, they are your training ground. Every mistake is a lesson. Every success is a laboratory. Our society, it gives us living examples of this inner leadership. Think of the small shopkeeper who, despite slow sales, he greets every customer with respect and patience. His steady demeanor, body language, it draws loyalty. Think of the school principal. Think of the school principal in a village who meets a parent or complaint not with a dismissal, but with curiosity. That encounter, it turns a critic into an ally. These are not grand gestures. They are everyday demonstrations of a settled mind. They are the quiet acts. They are the quiet acts that accrue influence over time. Leadership that begins inside, it yields visible results outside. Teams become steadier. Teams become steadier. Decisions become wiser. And culture becomes generative rather than guiding. When the leader's mind is a calm harbor, people bring their best to the shore. When the leader's mind is a storm, people learn to hide, not to help. So remember, this is not about pretending to be fearless. It is not about making doubts with a louder voice. But it is about building. It is about building the inner muscle that turns doubt into the disciplined curiosity, fear into the deliberate action, and it will turn confusion into clarity. Inside every person who leads, there are two very different energies that compete for control of the movement. Two different energies. One energy, it tightens the jaw, it narrows the vision, and it hunts for the danger. And the other energy, it softens the brow, it widens the view, and it looks for the possibility. The first energy, it demands proof, it demands prediction, and it demands perfection. The second energy, it invites courage, it invites curiosity, and it invites collaboration. A leader's work is not to eliminate either voice. Because both energies are important, both have their place, but to learn which voice to let pilot the ship when the waves arrive. The fearful voice is quick and sharp. It speaks from a place of scarcity and survival. It magnifies risk. It counts losses and it predicts the self. In high pressure situations, it offers formulas that feel fast, that feel decisive. Blame the team, close ranks, cut corners, or issue orders loudly until the noise drowns out uncertainty. On paper, these responses can look efficient. In practice, they erode relationships, they narrow options, and they build a brittle environment that collapses the moment something unfamiliar appears. The wiser voice moves. The wiser voice moves more slowly. It asks different questions. What is actually happening here? What is the smallest step? What is the smallest step that preserves dignity while moving us forward? It refuses the false comfort of immediate answers. Instead, it holds curiosity as a tool, listens to the situation, and invites others in. This voice does not soften accountability. Rather, it places accountability on a shared platform. It does not hide from hard choices. It does not hide from hard choices. It chooses them with an eye on the long game. Neuroscience explains why these two voices feel so real and so opposite. Under stress, the primitive parts of the brain, they hijack attention, shrinking options down to survival responses. The limbic system, fast, emotional, reactive. This system takes the wheel and the prefrontal cortex that weighs value and consequences goes by. This is why in a heated moment, even the kindest leader, he can snap. Or the most strategic leader, he can make a short-sighted choice. It is not moral failure. It is biology in action. The leadership task is to train the higher brain to return to the driver's seat more quickly and reliably. There is an example that in April 2016, Chief Justice P.S. Thakur, he delivered a public address in which he visibly broke down while speaking about the mounting backlog of cases, the mounting backlog of the pressure the judiciary was under in India. This example, it illustrates how enormous institutional stress can push a very senior, respected leader into emotional overload. Across India's corporate and leadership landscape, there are moments of stress. They often push even seasoned leaders into short-sighted decisions. This is not because they lack intelligence or strategy, but because the pressure triggers the ancient survival circuits of the brain, narrowing focus and prioritizing immediate relief over long-term vision. Study shows that nearly 90% of Indian business leaders themselves, they have acknowledged experiencing decision discomfort, second guessing, regret, and doubt in the past year ago. This reveals a deeper truth. In heated moments, even the most strategic leaders, they can slip into reactive choices that do not reflect their true capability. Stress compresses perspective and without emotional regulation. So leaders who normally think in years, actually they take years to think, they began to think in minutes. Consider leaders in a cricket dressing room. When a batsman is out after a controversial call, the room can either ignite in anger or they can settle into a calm, focused review what to do next. The side that chooses the review instead of angry, they rarely lose the match of character and often plays better in the next session. The same dynamics they play out in boardrooms. factory floors, and community meetings. Review it before. The tone set by one person carries anti. A tense leader brings tense teams, while a composed leader he produces steady performance. Recognition is the first act of mastery. Leaders must learn to hear their inner voices as they arrive. The fearful voice. The fearful voice. It shows itself as a quick temperature change, a rush of thoughts that repeat worst case scenarios, a tightening in the chest, an urge to shut out dissent, or to push for immediate control. The wiser voice, they arrive differently. A measured breath, a question that seeks context, a subtle openness that tolerate being wrong. These signals are small at first, but they are reliable signposts. Shifting from the reflexive voice to a reflective voice, it requires simple, repeatable rituals. The most powerful of these, it is a practiced pause, a few seconds of deliberate breath that interrupts the automatic loop. This pause is not weakness. It is an act of leadership currency. In those seconds, the prefrontal cortex, it regains access to reasoning. It regains access to memory. It regains access to values. A habitual pause, it creates space for better language, for better tone, and better decisions. Leaders who commit to their practice, they change the culture of their teams because they stop modeling panic and start modeling presence. Language matters. The leader's language matters. The fearful voice uses absolute and accusation, like you always, you never, this is unacceptable, etc. But the wiser voice, they chooses clarity and invitation. I observed this pattern. Tell me more about what happened. So, over the time, the vocabulary leaders use, it becomes the grammar of their teams. Replace punitive phrases with curious statements. And watch the workplace grammar. Suddenly, it will shift from assignment to alignment. Courage appears when leaders act from the reflective voice. It is not an absence of fear, but it is a choice in spite of it. When a head of a village panchayat publicly acknowledges a policy mistake and he outlines correction steps while inviting inputs, the trust grows. These acts of humility are not displays of weakness. They are the investments in resilience. Practical steps, they accelerate this inner transition. First, name the voice out. Name the voice out loud when it takes over. This is my protective voice. Naming diffuses power. Second, practice a short centering routine before critical moments. Taking steady breaths, a sentence that aligns you with purpose, a clear statement of desired outcome. With that, right responses for high pressure scenarios. So the mouth knows what the heart intends. Finally, invite feedback from trusted colleagues who will gently reflect when the fearful patterns return. There is also an ethical dimension. Leaders who habitually lead from fear, they create systems of avoidance where growth and creativity die. This is why the highest measure of leadership is not efficiency in crisis, but the capacity to cultivate environments where mistakes become lessons, where voices are invited and where responsibility is shared. The authentic leader builds structures, feedback loops, psychological safety, clear expectations that outlast the leader's own presence. That legacy begins in the inner decision to choose reflection over reflex. Leadership is practice. Where in ordinary moments, leadership is practiced in ordinary moments more than in grand speeches. It is the call the manager makes on a difficult Monday when the quarterly numbers are down. It is the tone used with a young intern who messed up a report. It is the steadiness offered to a family when life throws a health scare. These small demonstrations, repeated, they widen the team's expectations about how to meet pressure. The leader who chooses the reflective voice, he habitually becomes the leader whose team trusts risk, whose team trusts experiments, whose team trusts learning. At the end of the day, what the organization needs is not a voice that wins arguments, but a posture that walks people through uncertainty. The two voices inside every leader, they will always be there. Tugging in opposite directions. This is how leaders create a culture that survives stress and thrive in change. There comes a moment in every leader's journey. We can see the moments when the world seems to tighten around them. A single email, a raised eyebrow in a meeting, a delay in delivery, or a spreadsheet that throws up an unexpected number. These tiny sparks suddenly ignite a wildfire inside the mind of a leader. What most people mistake as irritation, frustration, or anger is actually something much deeper. That is the ancient stress response. Our brain, it designed thousands of years ago for survival in forests, for survival in deserts. It still behaves as if every challenge is a tiger emerging from the bushes. It cannot tell the difference between a life-threatening movement and a workplace inconvenience. The physiology is the same. The heartbeat, the psychology and the physiology, both are same. The heartbeat that accelerates, breath shortens, vision narrows, and the logic vanishes. In that instant, the wise part of the brain, it goes offline, and the primitive part, it takes over, pumping fear and defensive through everything. This is why leaders break. Leaders break not because of the size of responsibility, but because of the speed with which the mind interprets normal events as existential threats. A late team member feels like disrespect. A late team member feels like disrespect. A negative comment reads like an attack. A missed target becomes a personal failure. The body reacts first, the mind follows. Leadership collapses. But the true danger is leadership begins to make decisions in this path. Decisions taken in stress, they are rarely strategic. They are survival reactions. Words spoken in that state, they wound relationships more than they repair them. Actions taken from fear, they shrink possibilities. Instead of opening possibilities, they shrink the possibilities. The leader becomes smaller, not because lack of skill, but because of lack of mental regulation. So, to lead effectively, every leader needs what we call a leadership reset button. A leadership reset button. A short internal ritual that brings the brain back to clarity. That reset begins with a pause. Just a pause. A single moment where you refuse to react automatically. In that pause lies leadership. In that breath lies influence. In that silence lies strength. From that pause, we move to deliberate breath. Breath is the most underrated leadership tool. Your breath is the most underrated tool. A slow, intentional breath, it interrupts the ancient alarm system and it gives control back to the logical, compassionate part of the brain. When brain stays, clarity returns. When clarity returns, leadership emerges. From there, the mind must be the trying to follow a simple, profound formula that is called ARC. Awareness, response, compassion. ARC. Awareness. Awareness brings light to the real issue. It removes the emotional dust and it reveals the hidden truth beneath the chaos. Response is the conscious choice to act from maturity, not instinct. Compassion. Compassion is the ability to handle the moment in a human way because leadership is always human work. So, ARC, awareness, response, compassion. Yes, it is not just a psychological tool. It is spiritual intelligence in action. Because this formula, it has the capability to transform. It transforms managers into mentors, supervisors into stabilizers, and individuals into leaders. Leaders who carry calm like a sea. When leaders practice ARC consistently, their leadership, it becomes as balanced and harmonious as Hyderabad biryani. Like rich in layers, balanced in spice, comforting in experience. The world has changed. Industries have changed. Teams have changed. We are entering into 2026. Yet, some people still carry a 1980s understanding of leadership. Command, control, authority, fear. That world is gone. That 1980s world is gone. Today's world does not move through fear. It moves through creativity. It moves through innovation. It moves through agility and collaboration. This new world demands growth leadership. A mindset rooted not in controlling people, but in expanding their potential. Growth leadership, it rests on three interconnected pillars. three interconnected pillars. The first one is grow yourself. When a leader grows inwardly, the environment around them automatically shifts. You cannot lift a team to heights that you yourself refuse to climb. First of all, the leader has to climb. Growth begins with self-awareness, continues with discipline, and blossoms into influence. First, the leader has to grow. Then, point number two, grow your team. The responsibility of a leader is not to produce followers, but it is to produce leaders. The mark of a true leadership is seen in people who flourish, even in your hardships. So, there are many companies that have built global reputation. In India, we can talk about Infosys, TCS, Wipro, or there are many new age startups in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi. They did not just succeed because of one charismatic leader. They succeeded because they also cultivated ecosystems where people learned, where people experimented, where people grew into their own leadership identity. Point number three, grow your organization. Grow leadership. It looks at the long-term picture. Not next week, not next quarter, but 5 years, 10 years ahead. These leaders build culture as deliberately as they build strategy. They bring clarity to chaos. Clarity to chaos. They innovate not only in products, but in processes, mindsets, and behaviors. They create workplaces where people feel safe, valued, and inspired, and where these conditions exist. Excellence becomes the natural outcome. So, every leader, they carry invisible baggage, not in the hands, but in the minds. These invisible bags, they are filled with old beliefs. Old beliefs, they are absorbed unconsciously from society, they are absorbed from family, or they are absorbed from past failures and childhood experience. They whisper in the background, shaping behavior without permission. They are the limiting beliefs. They are the limiting beliefs that sabotage leadership long before any real obstacle arrives. They sabotage the world beliefs. These beliefs are subtle but powerful. I am not ready. What if I fail? People will laugh at me. I don't deserve this responsibility. I am not good enough. Leadership is for special people, not for someone like me. The inner voice whispering. These are not facts. These are emotional echoes from the past. And the mind, it believes it because repetition feels reality. Repetition feels like reality. But leadership demands a different internal vocabulary. Leadership demands that we replace the old tapes with new scripts. Scripts that build rather than that break. Scripts that empower rather than diminish. A leader must consistently choose new beliefs. Beliefs like, I am capable, I am learning, I am improving every day, I respond with dignity, I respond with clarity, I inspire trust wherever I go, I am becoming better leader with every experience. Such beliefs. Because beliefs are seeds, they grow into thoughts, thoughts into actions, actions into habits, and habits into identity. Change the beliefs and you change the leader. Change the leader and you change the organization. People do not follow a leader because of the nameplate on a desk card, the designation on a visiting card. They follow a leader because of 5 invisible qualities. 5 invisible leadership qualities. The first one is trust. Trust is the foundation of influence. If people cannot trust you, they may obey you temporarily, but they will never follow you willingly. Trust is built in simple moments. Keeping your word, listening sincerely, being consistent. And the leader's second quality is humanity. A leader is not lifted by authority, but he is lifted by empathy. People commit deeply to leaders who treat them as human beings, not headcounts. A simple gesture, listening without interrupting. It often does more than 100 motivational speeches. And the third best quality of a leader is he must have a vision. A vision. People need to feel that they are part of something bigger than themselves. A leader who carries vision gives direction to effort, meaning to work, and purpose to challenge. Then the fourth quality of a leader is stability. Emotional stability. It is one of the rarest and most valuable leadership qualities. When a leader's mood swings like the monsoon, sunny at 10 a.m., stormy by lunch, their teams live in fear. Stability builds psychological safety. Safety builds performance. Then the fifth quality of a leader is compassion. Your team is carrying invisible battles. They are carrying invisible family struggles, financial struggles, health issues, personal fears. When leaders recognize the humanity behind the performance, then loyalty becomes unshakable. Compassion is not weakness. It is organizational strength. In the landscape of modern leadership, one quality quietly rises above strategy, quietly rises above intelligence, above the experience. You know what is that? It is empathy, the ability to understand people not from a distance, but from within. Empathy is the inner technology that allows leaders to see beyond the performance charts and deadlines. And leaders should see into the human realities that produce them. When a leader practices empathy, they begin to notice the stories behind the behavior. A team member who seems distracted, maybe carrying a sick parent at home. Someone who is suddenly quiet, maybe fighting private battles with self-doubt. The intern who makes repeated mistakes, maybe more frightened than he is. Empathy gives leaders the ability to respond to the person, not just the error. And there is something extraordinary that happens when people feel understood. That something extraordinary is people open up, people cooperate, people rise above their limitations. That is the extraordinary thing that happens. Empathy dissolves resistance without force. It strengthens loyalty without demanding it. It makes people feel safe and human beings. Perform at their highest only when they feel safe. In India, this is especially true. Our workplaces are woven with cultural assumptions. They are built with cultural assumptions, family pressures, generational mindsets. and societal expectations. Employees, they often carry the weight of entire households. When a leader shows empathy, they become more than a supervisor. They become a stabilizing presence in a world that constantly pulls people in multiple directions. So, empathy does not mean lowering standards. Empathy does not mean lowering standards. It means raising support. Empathy means raising support. It does not mean excusing irresponsibility. It means understanding motives deeply enough to guide improvement. A leader who listens, well, commands more respect than a leader who instructs loudly. Leadership without empathy is mechanical. Leadership without empathy becomes mechanical. Leadership without empathy, when it is mechanical, leadership with empathy, it becomes magical. One of the most liberating truths in neuroscience is simple yet revolutionary. The brain can change at any age. This means leadership is not a fixed trait. It is not reserved for a chosen few. It is not a skill you either have or you don't. Leadership is circuitry. Circuits that can be rewired. Every thought, it forms a pattern. Every reaction follows a pathway. Every habit becomes a groove in the brain. When leaders repeatedly act from fear, defensiveness, or impatience, the brain builds partial highways to those who respond. But when leaders practice presence, pause, clarity, and compassion, the brain adapts. The brain adapts, building new connections that make these qualities natural, automatic, effortless. This process is called neuroplasticity, and it is the reason why even the most reactive person can become calm, why the harshest communicator can become patient, and why the most insecure leader can become confident. Rewiring. It begins with awareness, noticing the pattern. Noticing the pattern as it rises. It continues with interruption, pausing long enough to choose differently. And it strengthens with repetition. Practicing the new behavior until it leaves its mark on the brain. Our most admired leaders in governance, in business, sports, and social work. Our most admired leaders, they were not born with a leadership wiring. They created it through discipline, reflection, humility, and relentless self-improvement. Your brain is waiting for the same opportunity. Leadership mindset is not merely emotional wisdom. It is biological evolution. Practical thinkers. They solve today's problems. Strategic thinkers. They shape tomorrow's possibilities. Strategic thinking. It is the art of stepping out of the noise and seeing the hidden structure beneath chaos. It is the ability to rise above urgency and ask, what is truly happening here? What are the long-term consequences? Which direction creates the highest future? This ability sets great leaders apart. Strategic leadership begins with calm observation. A strategic leader watches patterns. They do not rush into decisions with a impatience of someone trying to show authority. They study the terrain. They study the terrain. The people, they study the people. They study the data. They study the timing. They study the risks. They study the unseen angles. They make decisions slowly at the beginning so that the organization can move quickly at the end. Life exposes us to complexity every single day. We are into complexity every single day. Complexity is like diverse mindset, unpredictable systems, multi-layered expectations, strategic leaders. They navigate this complexity. They navigate this complexity with the intelligence, not with intensity. Such leaders, they do three things consistently. They think in horizons, not hours. They see the downstream impact of every decision. They ask the better questions. They ask the better questions, not what is wrong, but what is possible. They connect dots. They connect dots others do not see. A true leader uses data and intuition together, blending logic with insight. Strategic thinking is not a talent. Strategic thinking is discipline. It grows when leaders slow down the mind, zoom out from the immediate problems, and examine the larger picture with both courage and creativity. Leadership is not just doing things efficiently. It is choosing the right things to do at the end of every career. At the end of every career, every project, at the end of every project, at the end of every chapter, and at the end of every life, a quiet truth reveals itself. People do not remember the targets. People do not remember the targets you hit, the tasks you completed, or the deadlines you set, or the deadlines you met. They remember how you made them feel. Legacy is not measured in profits. Legacy is not measured in portfolios or promotions. Legacy is measured in hearts. The hearts you uplifted, you strengthened, the hearts you empowered. A leader's true legacy is seen in the confidence they build in others. You have led well when people believe in themselves because of you. The culture they nurture. A team that feels safe to speak the truth, experiment boldly, and learn from mistakes is the greatest monument of leadership. The values they practice consistently. Integrity, fairness, respect, and compassion. They are not abstract ideas. They are the daily choices. Your real achievement is not your success, but the success of those you mentor. Great leadership is a ripple effect. It is a ripple effect. You may never see the full impact of your influence, but it will continue. It will continue through the decisions others make, the teams they build, and the lives they shape. At the end of it all, leadership is not about being remembered as the strongest person in the room. It is about being remembered as the person who made everyone else